Today on the Energized Leader Podcast, I'm going to do something a little bit different. In fact, if you're listening, you're not going to be able to see that I'm actually making a video. So you'll be able to go to YouTube and watch the video. But today, I wanted to film this because I have a very special co-host with me today. And I'm actually going to be interviewing him down the road because he is an extraordinary leader. But for today, he's going to be my co-host. And the goal of today is for everybody to get to know who Desi Payne is. So I'm just going to hand it over to Garrett Ross.
Good morning, Desi.
Good morning.
I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. We've known each other for quite some time. Our families have known each other for many, many years at this point, but some of our listeners don't necessarily know you. So tell us a little bit about your history. What makes Desi Desi?
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we do that, though, we want to give a shout out to the Bridgeview Center. We're here in this beautiful, what would you call it? Event
Expo,
center,
yeah.
Expo, event
Yep.
center. It's beautiful. And so
Absolutely.
they allowed us to come in here today and film this. So we want to, first of all, give Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa, Iowa, the amazing credit they are due. But to tell you a little bit about me, yes, we've known each other for a while. In fact, we've seen both of our kids grow up, so we
Yes.
won't tell our age then.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Leave it at that. But I grew up in Florida. Did you even know that?
I did not.
You did not know that.
No.
I lived in Titusville, Florida, and Titusville, Florida is essentially just like you see the bridge here going to the other side of the city. It was the bridge over to NASA, and my dad was an engineer for NASA.
I've been to Titusville before.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. So I grew up in the space world and loved it. It was just, as a kid, it was like the coolest thing that your dad worked at NASA. And when mom would come in and wake us up in the night and say, "We're gonna go watch Daddy's rocket go up," it was like, it was the best thing.
Oh man.
But then, if you, like everyone probably knows the story of Apollo 13 with the amazing movie with Tom Hanks, when the astronauts were stuck in space 200,000 miles away from Earth. My dad was one of the engineers that was called in on this project to try to bring these astronauts back. And spoiler alert, they brought him back. Which
Good
is,
to know. Good to know. If you
yeah.
haven't seen it, sorry.
It's, great movie, great story of bringing them back. But unfortunately, after that that had happened, my dad, among hundreds of employees, was laid off because it was a space disaster and it affected the NASA space program in a huge way. And so we ended up moving from Florida and moving to California. Dad worked for McDonnell Douglas. Then he worked for in St. Louis. I mean, we were all over this country. And I truly believe that's when it started within me to become a resilient person. Because my dad, having this very prestigious job, working at NASA, sitting in that control room, he became an alcoholic. And he never drank, except my mom would tell me during a Cubs baseball game, he would pull out a can of beer, and he wouldn't even drink half of it. He'd put it in the refrigerator. So he didn't even drink. But because alcoholism was a huge part of his side of the family, this triggered it to be to take off.
That's a lot of stress.
It was a lot of stress, and he never could cope with that. And every job he went to, he got fired because he was drunk. And so that led us back to living here in my now hometown of Ottumwa, Iowa. And again, he got some jobs, but he couldn't handle them. And so to think about this, someone with a prestigious job in NASA and then becoming homeless. Very, very tough on the family. So then after my parents divorced, because, alcoholism played a big part in that, my mom went to work at night, my dad left, and I was like the automatic, at 16 years old, I was like I was the mom at home. because I was in charge of 3 kids.
Wow. And
And
that was at 16 years old.
at 16 years old, yeah.
My
And
goodness.
so she gave me the list: make hamburger helper, iron the clothes. That's when people ironed. Iron.
Not very often anymore.
We don't do that much now. Iron the clothes, help them with their homework, and we fought like cats and dogs, and it was tough. And so then after I graduated from college, I got a job at our hospital here. But I'll tell you about that in a couple minutes, because I want to go back to a little bit more history, because then my mom started a restaurant. Well, not only one, but up until this time, she has now probably opened and managed 35 restaurants.
35.
35
Oh my
restaurants. She's still
goodness.
working in a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah, and even
That's
during
multiples a year.
oh my
Goodness.
goodness, oh my goodness, each one could have its own story. But I learned again about business because I helped in a lot of those restaurants. In fact, during COVID, when she was 79 years old, she opened another one.
Oh, goodness.
And because of COVID and, overnight all my speaking events were canceled, I said, okay, Mom, I'll come help you. And it was like, it was an experience in itself. So that kind of gives you an idea of a lot of background of dealing with, being a resilient person in my life. And well, I opened my own business. You remember when I opened?
Yeah, yes. Your mini golf course.
My mini golf course, yeah. My husband, who had wanted a dinosaur-themed mini golf ever since we got married. When we were on our honeymoon, we were at a mini golf and it was dinosaur-themed, and he was like, "I want to open my own dinosaur-themed mini golf." And he had said that for years and years and years and years and years. And finally, one day I said, "Let's just do it." And of course, we opened that. But again, I learned about employees. Employees are different. Now, you hire employees,
Absolutely.
young employees.
All the time.
Tell me how that's different. I'm curious how that's different from years ago.
Generationally speaking.
Generational speaking.
Yeah, it is one of those things where, and I think going back to your point of resilience.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's easy for us to not realize how good we've got it. And within that, I start to see resilience starting to wane in our younger generations.
Yes.
It's just one of those things when you see somebody who's never had to struggle because times are good, it makes it easy for us, and complacency kind of sets in with a lot of these younger generations. So that's one of the biggest factors that I will say that I see.
Well, we had some really good employees when we had our mini golf, and then we had some that, they didn't show up. They didn't show up, or dealing with people. I mean, we live in a very small town, so we wanted it to be affordable for anybody. So $5. $5. And so one day, my son is actually working, and I couldn't believe it when he came home and told us the story. This guy came in with 5 kids.
Wow.
And so he says to my son, "I have 5 kids. Can we have a discount?" And my son says, "No, it's $5 a person." And, he was probably 18 years old, and he handled it, I think, pretty well. And he said, we want to make it affordable. So for everybody, we don't do discounts. So we do $5 a person. And no kidding, Garrett, his kids were in a line. He looked at his kids and he said, "So what do we say?" And all those kids in unison went, "Boo."
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's a very bold move.
What was that father training those kids
Exactly.
to be like
What
society?
was the example?
I know it. So,
Wow.
so having businesses, being an entrepreneur myself, I've learned a lot about life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You build resiliency even within that.
Yeah.
Even creating a little bit of a thicker skin and a little bit of a hide to understand that you have to have a confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
That is really defined by something else other than just people and their given opinions.
Yeah. Well, speaking of resilience, one of the things that I did, and I'm jumping ahead of myself just a little bit, But I did school assemblies for many, many years.
Yes.
Started out doing elementary, but then I started doing middle school and high school assemblies. And one of them was called I Am Resilient, teaching kids to be resilient. And interesting enough, I'm about to, it's just like a couple days before I'm going into the school to do one of my I Am Resilient assemblies, I get the phone call that I have breast cancer. And I remember, I mean, that's a whole story and all the emotions and dealing with that and that story. But, 2 days later, I'm walking into school. I did not feel resilient. I did not feel resilient at all. So that particular day, I thought, I'm going to do something different. So I took my pink boxing gloves. And at the end of the assembly, I told the kids that after I gave them the 5 strategies on how to be more resilient in life, I pulled out my boxing gloves and they were like, yeah, awesome, yeah. And I put them on and I said, you know what? Life just knocked me down. And I took those boxing gloves and I swung and I landed on my back and I told them the story about life had just knocked me down. And I told them that I had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And there was this hush throughout the whole auditorium with 400 students. And while I'm lying there, and after I told them that, I sat up and I said, you know what? I'm not going to stay down. I am getting back up. And to my surprise, they all started cheering for me. And afterwards, this teacher came up to me after the assembly and she said, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really needed to hear that. And I thought, oh my goodness. I mean, what I'm going through is going to help somebody else? Wow.
Not just the kids.
Yeah,
and really seeing that application of it as well.
Yeah.
It's easy for people, especially youth, to see people say one thing and then do something differently, but to see it really happen.
Right.
In real time.
In real time.
Those phone calls are heavy phone calls.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the hush that fell over the crowd was the same hush that fell over you in that phone call.
Oh my
And just sitting in silence in that moment, dealing and listening, thinking all of the things at once. And then you're passing that on and helping them realize they get to see it happening real time.
Right.
And that's so important for them to see. But once again, not just the kids.
Yeah.
Those extra people you don't even think about.
That is true. That is true. So I am proud of that accomplishment because I kept track in over like a 7-year period, spoke to over 30,000 teenagers.
Wow.
That doesn't count all the
faculty, staff,
and everything. Yeah.
support.
So I hope that during that time I made a huge impact. But going back to working at the hospital, and that really has a lot to do with what I speak about today. So when I worked at the hospital, I was not happy.
What did you do at the hospital?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's such a loaded question because, I actually got a BA in education, and because of circumstances, my husband going to college, I was working at the hospital, and I was working in nursing administration, and I was in charge of staffing every single nurse, every single department, every single shift, 24/7. And that was before they had computer systems.
Yeah, any kind of electronic system to manage that logistics.
Yeah.
Not to mention a high burnout job to begin with.
That
heavy.
And then I was in charge of payroll for all those people, accreditation. It was a very stressful job. And on Sunday nights, it would be like, I gotta go to work tomorrow. Gotta go to work. And so when I would go into work on Monday mornings, I was like the moping zombie. I mean, I would just drag myself in. And there were days I would put my head on my desk and just cry and think, is this what I'm going to do with my life? Of course, I was pretty young then. But I truly believe what you're doing today is always preparing you for what you're going to do tomorrow. What you're doing today is going to prepare you for the doors you're going to go through the next day, because another job opened up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
All right. So I became what was called the patient rep, patient advocate. In a nutshell, I was the complaint department.
Oh, goodness. Well, I was going to ask, would this be represented as a promotion, or,
Well,
but from what you've just said, I don't know if I would classify that as a promotion.
Believe it or not, I love that job.
Really?
I did, because I would visit patients. As soon as I got to work, it was like I put my tennis shoes on, and I went to every single patient room that would allow me to go into. And my goal was to see if we were exceeding their expectations on the care that we were giving them. And I built rapport with patients that were there a long time. For example, patients on dialysis. I mean, I was all over that place. And then, so if I would see a problem, then it's like, we need to fix this. And so I developed this philosophy: find a need and fill it. And so I would be working with the medical staff, the any department that I would need to say, how can we make this better? And so then another door opened up to go along with that is, well, you need to be the customer service trainer. So
we've just got such a good rapport that we're just going to upgrade you again.
So once a month, if it was your birthday month, you would come in, and for a year, I would have one theme during that year, and I would be really teaching customer service skills, those soft skills. And so I did that for many, many years. And while I was doing that job, there was a professional clown working at the hospital by the name of Dr. Bug. Like a Patch Adams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with the movie.
Yeah, like Patch Adams. And I would call him on the phone many times and say, Dr. Bug, I need you to go into 423. This lady is really grumpy. And he would go into that room. He would do his magic, and it would just be like magical. The whole atmosphere of the room would change. And it just was incredible. And so one night, I was asked to entertain at the hospital chaplain banquet, because he was also one of the chaplains. And so I went in and I just did a mime skit. And he made a beeline up to me afterwards, and he said, "Who taught you how to do that?" I said, "Taught me how to do what?" He said, "Who taught you how to do that?" I said, "I don't know, I just did it." And he said, "Have you ever thought about going to clown college?"
Once again, so the hush that fell over you in that moment might have been eerily similar to some other ones.
Yeah, I thought this guy,
especially from your experience at that point, had been all administration.
I thought this guy's nuts, and my husband hates clowns.
That is an ongoing hilarious theme in your relationship.
Yes. You know my husband well.
Absolutely.
And so what happened was, he would be throwing brochures on my desk about this clown college all the time. And one day he says, "All right, this clown college is going to be at the university." Let me back up. This clown college is going to be in Des Moines, Iowa, which is 90 minutes from us. And they're just going to put on a weekend conference. Why don't you just come? It'll be a lot of fun. And I thought, this guy won't leave me alone. I'll just go and I'll learn how to do animal balloons. I could do them at church or something. Well, to make a long story short, I became a professional clown.
You got hooked.
I got hooked. It was like a whole new world. I walked into this auditorium, and it wasn't your, as my husband calls it, the his clown theme. How would you say that? His clown ideology would be the drunk clown at the birthday party.
Yeah, very slapstick, goofy,
goofy, unprofessional.
Okay.
But this was totally different. This was an art. And there are people from all over the world that were teaching this art. One class was on the different types of clowns. This classroom was on the different ways to apply makeup for the different types of clowns. This one was on magic. This was on skit production. I mean, it was mind blowing.
So much more in depth than you could have imagined at that point.
I know.
And isn't it incredible, the things that we often fight hardest against are the moments in which we have to stop later and realize that this literally was package made for us.
Well, you know what? Again, as I said, what you're doing today is always preparing you for the door that you're going to go through tomorrow. And he actually mentored me to take his place at the hospital, which is what I did. And again, it totally changed my life. And here I've been visiting patients. I mean, I was getting prepared. And it was a whole college, university, paid free experience in that career and I became Dizzy the Clown. And you know Dizzy.
Absolutely.
And it opened up so many other doors, such as Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, guest performing with Ringling Brothers twice, and Carden International Circus, being in commercials and on TV. And that's how I started with elementary schools. And there were so many leadership lessons that I learned because I was in so many different venues. I was watching people. I was watching leaders in all of these different places. And even in the hospital that I worked, I saw from the time I worked as a youngin', all through that career, I saw 7 CEOs come and go.
Wow. My goodness.
Yeah, I saw the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I actually learned about leadership just watching and watching and watching. So, yeah.
Did you realize at the time when you were watching that leadership cycle, did you realize what you were seeing? Did you consciously acknowledge, that's what I would want to do? That's what I think is a good leader?
I don't think I thought that at the time. I think I was just taking it all in. But again, it was preparing me for what I do today. And I was at a magician's conference because I became a magician as well.
A good one. A very good one.
I also became a magician even when I wasn't wearing the clown garb. And I was at a magician's conference. And at the end of the conference one particular day, there was a keynote speaker who ended with this powerful illusion, and I was like, I mean,
shock and awe.
It was like how he made this strong point with this illusion, and I remember sitting there and going, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to influence people's lives as a keynote speaker, because believe it or not, the experience that I have, I mean, I could write books. Well, I've written 3. I'm going to write another one real soon here. But the experience that I have of working with people, and the goal now for me is to create a positive workplace culture. And what I really want to do is energize leaders. I want to elevate culture and inspire teams. And the first way that you're going to have a positive workplace culture is with a leader.
Absolutely.
Because John Maxwell says, and he's the #1 leadership expert in the world, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Absolutely.
And so guess what? I became a John Maxwell leadership team member because I wanted to even dive deeper into leadership and really study it. So I've been a John Maxwell team member now for 10 years. So I have studied and studied and studied leadership. And so yeah, there's my life in a nutshell for what I do now.
Gracious me. That's a wide berth, to say the least. I mean, medical administration to clown college, and a motivational speaker. And I can only imagine, I mean, just the breadth of what you've taken in. Is probably only part of what people have even experienced.
Yeah, well, let me back up. So how I do that is with teaching people a framework where they need to reboot every day. Not only do I teach the leaders what they need to do, which is the #1 thing to do, is to value people, connect with people, but the employees themselves, I mean, like when I was a moping zombie, I wish somebody would have came to me when I was working there, to help me when I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
Absolutely. And even within that, helping somebody, because knowing that that person that's in that mindset at the time, they don't want help either.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
struggling at that point.
Yeah.
So that's going to take a special individual with a special skill set to accomplish that.
So this is what I teach people to do. I teach them how to reboot on a daily basis. And because we're out of time, I'm going to have to teach that in part 2, the next episode.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Desi. Greatly appreciate your time today and learning more about you and your history and once again, the wide berth of many experiences that you've had throughout your life. It's incredible. It's dynamic, and it's great to hear.
All right. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you in the next episode.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.